So a lot of the issues around jockey mental well-being has been brought to the fore because of the sad death of Liam Treadwell. I know that he was a friend of yours, so sorry for your loss, and condolences to everybody who knew him. From the tributes I read on social media, he sounded like a wonderful person. But one thing that struck me was that a lot of people said he was a Grand National winning jockey. So, you know, maybe that should have helped to an extent, but it's much more complicated, isn't it? I think you can probably explain that better.
Yeah, well, yeah, first of all, look, I wouldn't say that I was best friends with him or anything, but certainly friendly in the way of him, and my thoughts are certainly with his friends and family, and we're very, very sad. Great person, absolutely, like, and you know, you see a lot of tributes go to people when we lose them, and you know, everything is genuine that was said about him. He was a top person, and that's the worst thing about it. Yeah, I think it's a fair point that he was obviously a Grand National winning jockey, Cheltenham Festival winning jockey, and I think without going into it in too deep, I think it's a really good illustration that success in a sporting domain isn't necessarily going to guarantee happiness. There's always something going on in the background, and sport is a wonderful career to have, but it is a career and it's only part of your life. It can be obviously a large part of it, but there are other things going on in terms of family and getting your happiness from other things. I think like there's been countless examples in our sports, like Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, was very open about his struggles. He went into rehab post London 2012. So yeah, I think it's important for younger athletes in general to know that if you're feeling, you know, if you're struggling a little bit, riding that winner mightn't actually be the answer. And I think that's very important to kind of note. Yeah, that those sort of rewards, you know, are nice and that, but maybe there's something else going on that needs addressing. I don't know if that answered the question.
It does. For many jockeys, you're a first port of call, I guess. And if there is something else, something deeper going on, it's your job to kind of address that or figure it out, if you like. I sort of want to talk to any jockeys that might be watching this in a sense. And I know that you've got a really helpful illustration of sort of signs to look out for anybody who might be struggling out there.
Yeah, so if you want me to do that now, I'll just share the screen, but you can see that?
Yes.
Hopefully everybody can see that. But yeah, I just actually came across it last week, and I think delphis.org.uk, so I don't get any copyright violations. But I think it was a nice illustration in terms of what mental well-being looks like, and the big thing to really reinforce is that everybody is somewhere across these 5 stages at any point in their life or any point in time. If we're looking at sort of that normal behavior, for lack of a better word, although what's normal, we're probably all sit on that thriving stage, hopefully. So in terms of mood, we're positive, calm, our thinking, we're performing quite well, whatever our jobs might be, making good decisions, physically sleeping well, diet is pretty good, we eat normally, and then we're kind of engaging in lots of different social activities and seeing friends, etc. I suppose the column on the right there, excelling, is jockeys probably get that if you know, if you're riding a winner or if you're on the crest of a wave, and so you're really in top form, flow, everything's going well outside the racing. It could be you've got a new relationship, new boyfriend, new girlfriend, and you might have had a son or a daughter, or something really good happens, and so it's nice to be in our right hand column every now and again, but it's probably maybe 1 or 2 days a week, or 2 days a month, something like that. Then if you look towards the middle, sort of surviving, I think we all slip into here pretty often as well. So again, looking at the mood, just worried about things, a little bit nervous, and that can be natural. If it's your first ride, you're going to be a little bit nervous. If it's your first ride at a festival, if it's an Ascot or Cheltenham, you might be a little bit nervous, or if it's a job interview. So they're all quite normal. irritable, so maybe you get frustrated with people every now and again, but that could be down to if they're trouble sleeping. So if you have a bad night's sleep, you might be a little bit more irritable. In terms of that sort of social aspect as well, maybe you're not willing to go out as much, or people are going out for a meal or going to cinema and you don't really want to go out with them. So I think in that sort of column, we just need to be really aware of those emotions and behaviors, and it's not necessarily seeking help there, but I think if you're aware of it and you can kind of understand where they might be coming from, what might be causing those sort of challenges, then we can kind of get ourselves almost back into that thriving column. But then again, that surviving column, the key thing is, chatting to people that you trust, and maybe you're worried for a good reason, and they can kind of help you through it, and maybe you're worried for maybe a not a pertinent issue, and people kind of settle you, oh, don't be worried about that, that's going to work out absolutely fine. I suppose the further left we go, things get a little bit more serious, and so if we're looking at those classic sort of phrases that are thrown out there in terms of anxiety and depression, so anxiety in terms of you're worrying excessively about something that may have happened in the past, or something that may happen in the future, but it's really affecting your day-to-day functioning outside of baseline. So if this isn't something that you usually do, some people are generally maybe more worrying than others, but if you're usually pretty calm, but you feel I'm getting unnecessarily anxious here, I'm worried about different things, and then it's something that we need to really kind of pick up on and be aware of. Depression, again, looking at depressed mood, feelings of guilt or not worth it, you feel I'm no good as a jockey or as a person, sort of phrases like that are something to really be aware of. And the sort of physical aspect of it, being tired, your poor sleep there as well. So either you can't get to sleep, or you can't wake up, having kind of, again, slipping out of that baseline, what your standard 7 to 8 hour sleep pattern might usually be. Sleep is a really good sort of indicator of that there's something might be amiss. Your thinking, your performance, so you're not willing to engage with people, your decision making might be a little bit off, you might be irritable, lots of different things like that. And then the appetite is probably a little bit more nuanced in terms of jockeys, and appetite might kind of go up and down, but generally speaking, again, those normal habits around food are seriously disrupted. So within that column, we need to be really aware of our own emotions, and we need to seek out help if we're kind of slipping into that column. And then in terms of the last column in crisis on the left, this is considerable clinical difficulties, and certainly I would not be qualified to train, my training has qualified me to deal with these issues as a counsellor or as a clinician, but I can certainly recognise these signs with people. So again, incredibly anxious and incredibly low mood, and just not wanting to function, or not wanting to take part in general day-to-day life. Relationships really affected. Not wanting to go to work is a big one, struggling to get out of bed, or struggling to wake up, different things like that. So it's a broad sort of stroke of the human experience, and it certainly doesn't cover anything, and there's obviously we kind of slip in between lots of different stages ourselves, but I just think it's a nice illustration of what we all go through it at some time, whether we've lost a loved one or we lose a pet, can be incredibly traumatic to people. Losing a job, we're going to have lots of different challenges. And people have different abilities to handle those challenges in different ways. So someone who might lose a parent could handle it well, and they lose their dog and be utterly distraught for months. So it's certainly not. It's up to the individual massively. But I think being aware of those those behaviors, and when is it kind of moving away from baseline? When is it moving away from your normal sort of functioning? Is it affecting your work? Is it affecting your relationships? Are big signs. And then in terms of that, where that support goes, I obviously can be that first step in maybe identifying what those behaviors, if they're clinical, and if they need to be addressed by a clinician, either a psychologist or counsellor. I can certainly help jockeys with that and then refer on. Or else they can go straight to the PGA. They can ring Paul Struthers, and then there's that 24-hour hotline as well, provided by Sporting Chance. So there's lots of ways for jockeys to access that. If they're in the Injured Jockeys Fund centres as well, speaking to a physio, speaking to an S&C, they can refer them straight on as well. As I said, there's lots of avenues for them to go. But the big one is just being aware. Is this behaviour gone away from my normal functioning for no good reason, maybe? So someone who has suffered a bereavement, you can kind of understand where this is coming from and you can work through it. But if these things seem to be coming out of nowhere, that would indicate there's a clinical challenge there, and that needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
Okay, you can come back now full screen.
Okay, cool.
But that's a really helpful model. It's very simplistic, and you can easily place yourself in whichever category you're in. And so anybody out there watching this that does want help, I know that you're more than happy to be a first port of call, as you are already for so many. So we'll share your details and, as you mentioned, those other details as well. And just encouraging anybody that is struggling to get help, because we don't want any more Liam Treadwells. I'm sure his family would absolutely say the same.
Yeah, 100%. And look, it mightn't even be that it's me or it's someone in a professional capacity. It's anyone. Anyone can help. Half of the battle is getting off your chest and having someone to listen to you. It really takes the edge off things. I said it's getting there early. If you're coming home in the races and a constant term is, oh, my head is fried, getting that off your chest, chatting with people is huge, whether it's someone within racing, whether it's someone outside of racing. But finding out what helps you get out of that sort of rigid kind of way of thinking is key. It mightn't necessarily be me or anyone in that professional role, but if you do trust someone, hopefully you have 2 or 3 people on your phone that you can ring and just get that off your chest. I think that's, as we said, prevention is huge. So identifying those signs early, addressing them, and if you feel that you need further help with them, then contacting any one of the support that I've mentioned.
Yeah, and we at Star Sports will share those details. Aodhagán, thank you so much from this interview and from chatting to you over the last few days. I have a massive newfound respect for jockeys as a flippant horse racing enthusiast. I certainly will just watch all racing differently. I think it's an incredibly tough time that they have to go through. I hope that this has been helpful to jockeys, helpful to anyone. If it helps one person, then it's been worthwhile, and you've been fantastic. So thank you so much.
No, thank you very much for having me, Julie. And hopefully, as you said, if we had one person out of it, then it was very much time well spent.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.